So, free agency 2019, a time many teams will look back and think, boy, we really improved our club. Look at the Rangers with Artemi Panarin, the Panthers with Sergei Bobrovsky, the Stars with Joe Pavelski, the Wild with Matt Zuccarello, the Preds with Matt Duchene. Many teams did many excellent things over the course of that day, and then there's the Ottawa Senators. Many of you are probably thinking, yeah, but free agency was a week ago. Where have you been? Well, to be brutally honest, it's taken me this long to build up enough desire to even want to make this video. I am so done with the Sens, man. Like, every time I think, yeah, I can get behind this team, they go and do what they did on Monday! And what perfect timing, too. In this part of the world, it's been cold for basically this entire year. Then right on schedule, Canada Day comes around and it gets hotter than a barbecue. So naturally, the Sens go out, do something to tick me off. My temperature goes up, 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 up. Then it gets hot and it goes up, 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 up. And I can't cool it down. Now I'm steaming. You want to know why I don't have a jersey on today? That is why. So what actually is it that has me so hot and bothered? Well, the Sens made a few moves over the last few days, so let's get into them. The first and most obvious move for the Sens was one that was actually completed a few days before free agency, but had to wait until July 1st so the Leafs could pay the signing bonuses and save the Sens some money. And once July 1st came, and that money was saved, the Ottawa Senators traded Aaron Luchuk, Cody Ceci, Ben Harper, and a 2020 third-round pick to the Toronto Maple Leafs for Nikita Zaitsev, Connor Brown, and Michael Carcone. And so ends the Cody Ceci era in Ottawa. And after the hiring of DJ Smith, so begins the Toronto Maple Leafs era in Ottawa. Ironically enough, I couldn't realize how right I would be. So in the days leading up to it, you heard bits and pieces of the trade like, oh, Nikita Zaitsev for Cody Ceci. And I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah, Zaitsev has a longer contract, but I'm okay with that. Ceci isn't really that great anyway. He needs a change of scenery. Maybe Zaitsev would fit in Ottawa because he needs a change of scenery too. Then you keep reading along and you hear, oh, Connor Brown might be thrown in as a sweetener. And I'm thinking, all right, Cody Ceci for Connor Brown and Nikita Zaitsev? Yeah, we're taking on some money, but I'll like that one. Then the morning of, you hear, oh, there's more than that involved, and there's a pick involved. And I start pulling at my shirt like, guys, I'm getting a little worried here. Then the trade officially comes through, and it's what I just told you. So let me get this straight. Ottawa gets Zaitsev, Brown, and an AHLer for Ceci, Harper, an AHLer, and a third-round pick. See, you're telling me the Leafs dump their salary cap onto the Sens do them a favor, help them out, and Ottawa gives away the sweetener pick? So we take their cap dump and give them the asset. Hello? Pierre Dorion? Eugene Melnyk? Somebody? Is anybody awake? Better yet, does anybody actually care? Or are we just destroying this thing completely? I really should have known. Eugene Melnyk runs around bragging, oh, we have 17 picks in the first 3 rounds in the next 3 drafts. So what are we going to do with them? We're going to package them together to let other people dump their cap on us. It's the biggest crock I've ever heard. Like, the biggest crock I have ever heard. I mean, I guess I should have known, right? It is the Sens. I mean, that's what they do. So we know what the Sens are losing. Luchuk's an AHLer. Ben Harper had trouble at times last season. And Cody Ceci really just needed a change of scenery. But what are they getting? Well, I guess the biggest fish, certainly contract-wise anyway, was Nikita Zaitsev. In Zaitsev, the Sens are getting a guy who Leafs fans quickly soured on over the last couple seasons, has a long, rich contract still to be paid, and struggled at times in the last few seasons. Zaitsev isn't the minutes eater that Cody Ceci was, which is going to hurt the Sens' blue line, but Zaitsev might be a little better player than Ceci, so that could help them out. Ceci and Zaitsev admittedly are pretty close, and it's difficult to tell who actually is better because Ceci has played on a far worse Sens team in the last few years than Zaitsev, who played on a much better Leafs team. But when we look at possession numbers, Zaitsev's numbers are way better, and his teammates perform way better when he's on the ice than Ceci's numbers are, or than when Ceci plays with other teammates on the ice. In a lot of cases in Ottawa over the last few years, when Ceci's on the ice, the numbers plummet for everybody, and when he's off the ice, those numbers go up. Having the familiarity with DJ Smith should also help out Zaitsev as he transitions into a new role, but is it much of an upgrade? I guess we'll have to find out. One huge upgrade though for the Sens was moving out defenseman Ben Harper and moving in forward Connor Brown. Yes, Connor Brown will soon be a free agent, and yeah, he didn't have a lot of success in Toronto the last few years, but with so much depth on that roster, he was never really given a fair chance to succeed, whereas in Ottawa, I think he's going to get that chance, and I think he's going to thrive. And ironically enough, you look at Brown's numbers over the last few years, I just finished saying he wasn't really given much of a chance, and he's still basically a 30-point player in each of the last 2 seasons. In his rookie season, he was given a real chance, and he put up 20 goals. I really like this move. I could see Brown being something like an Anthony Duclair last year. He's given a little bit more opportunity, and he thrives in that role. Plus, Brown is a pretty good penalty killer as well, so that's not going to hurt Ottawa either. And that brings us to the final and smallest piece of the deal, Michael Carcone. Carcone has spent the last 3 seasons playing in the American Hockey League, including last season where he split time between the Utica Comets and the Toronto Marlies, scoring 44 points in 62 games. But according to a number of Marlies insiders who watched Carcone play a number of times last season, he was very close to making the Leafs at times and showed promise to make the NHL. Those same insiders said he was an excellent pickup in the move and figured he'd provide terrific depth for the Sens next season, figuring he even might fit in a few games. If the Sens can get anything out of him, that's just a bonus. As for the trade itself, you know what my overall takeaway was? Not buying any more Sens jerseys. At least not for a long time. Look at this for a minute. Mark Stone, he gone. Cody Ceci, he gone. Erik Karlsson, he gone. The only guy left, this one over here, Bobby Ryan, and he's only still here because nobody wants him. Why waste my time or my money? They're just gonna get shipped out anyway. But the formation of Eugene Melnick's new Ottawa Maple Leafs was not complete yet, as they also signed a pair of former Leafs in Ron Hainsey and Tyler Ennis. Ron Hainsey gets a 1-year, $3.5 million contract, while Ennis gets a 1-year, $800,000 contract. So let me get this straight. Eugene Melnick comes out early in the year and brags about how Ottawa's rebuild is going to be terrific and about how Toronto's rebuild was terrible because they don't have any defense. Then he turns around, hires the Leafs defensive coach, trades for one of the Leafs defensemen, one of the Leafs defensive forwards, then signs one of the Leafs defensemen, and signs another Leafs forward. So at the beginning of 2019, the Leafs defense was garbage, and by July, their assistant coach is now good enough to be Ottawa's head coach. 3/4 of their top penalty killing unit is good enough to be Sens, and another forward off their second penalty killing unit is also good enough to be a Sen. I used to think this t-shirt was pointed at the Leafs. Now I know what it really means. Worst team ever, because they can't even mock the Leafs with any talent. This team makes me so angry.
But Chris, these guys are locker room guys. It's gonna change the culture.
Oh, great! Locker room guys! Terrific! Why don't we get skilled guys instead?
Because they don't want to pay anybody. The locker room guys come cheap.
This team could win the cup on locker room guys, but we're not playing for locker room. So now we have those locker room guys. Now what? You know, when I really stopped to think about the signing for Hainsey, it's not all that bad. And really, it shouldn't be all that shocking. Why wasn't the trade shocking? Ron Hainsey was drafted in the first round by the Montreal Canadiens, and who was the Montreal Canadiens employee at the time? Pierre Dorion. Dorion has allegedly always liked Hainsey, so seeing him end up in Ottawa wasn't all that shocking. And why wasn't it all that bad? It was a pretty low-risk signing. It's a one-year deal worth $3.5 million, so it's not a huge money contract, and at the end of the year, you can just cut bait. And if somehow things go decently well, you could flip him at the deadline and get an asset for him. Although now that I think about that, and knowing Ottawa, they'll probably trade Hainsey in a third and get a fourth-round pick back. And I have to admit, I do worry about Hainsey taking a roster spot from a younger defenseman, but as I sit here now, I can only really think of 3 guarantees for the Sens blue line next year. Thomas Chabot, Dylan DeMello, and Nikita Zaitsev. You throw in Ron Hainsey, that's 4, then where do you go? Mark Borowiecki would be 5, Christian Wolanin would be 6. You could throw Max Lajoie into that mix as 7, maybe Eric Brandstrom as 8, although I think Brandstrom's going to spend most, if not all, of next season in Belleville. And beyond that, they also have Christian Jaros, who after last season, I think deserves a chance with the big club. That's a lot of guys, not a lot of spots. I guess we'll have to see how they fit them all together. And like I mentioned earlier, the Sens weren't done digging into the Leafs pool and signed Tyler Ennis. Much like the Hainsey signing, this was a bit of a head-scratcher for me. Why did the Sens need Ennis? Aside from the obvious off-ice reasons like he's a good locker room guy, I had a real difficult time understanding why this fit on the ice. Sure, Ennis can play up and down the lineup. Sure, he can kill penalties. Sure, he can play the power play. But Ottawa has no room up front. So where does he fit? Well, the more I thought about it, the only reason I could come up with, they mustn't think some of the kids that maybe I think are going to make the team are actually ready to make it. Maybe they see Brown and Batherson staying in the AHL this season, and if that's the case, Tyler Ennis starts to make sense. He is still taking a roster spot from a younger guy, so the Sens better know what they're doing. And again, much like Hainsey, there's no term at all, so if the Sens aren't doing well at the trade deadline, they could flip him for a pick. But much like Hainsey, I could see the Sens giving away the better pick to trade him away. Aside from those moves, the Sens have made a couple of depth moves over the last week as well, signing Jordan Schwartz and Nick Paul to contracts. Schwartz had a solid season in the AHL next season and should be a nice benefit to Belleville, while Nick Paul will be an excellent addition to Belleville, and it's nice to see him back. I don't expect he'll see much, if any, time with the Sens next season, but like I mentioned earlier, if the Sens see Brown and Batherson staying in the AHL next season, pairing them up with Paul, who had a really good chemistry with them at the end of last season, will be really good for both of their development this season. Plus, if those 3 can light it up and lead the Belleville Sens to the playoffs for the first time in forever, that would be more great growth for all of them. And the final signing the Sens made was another quote-unquote depth signing, as they re-signed defenseman Christian Wolanin to a 2-year contract. Getting Wolanin back is another excellent addition for the Sens. He played some time in the AHL, spent some time in the NHL late last season, and looked pretty good. Hopefully he can have a big summer and somehow find his way onto a now crowded Sens defense. And much like Paul, if he ends up in the AHL next season, it's not the worst case scenario. He'll be an excellent addition to the Belleville Sens and should help them make the playoffs. So Wolanin's back under contract, Paul's back under contract. Are there any restricted free agents missing from that list? Maybe a Colin White? Oh no! Heaven forbid we sign that guy. Of all the guys the Sens re-signed or signed this offseason, including all the guys they got in the trade, White's the best one. So naturally, he's the one they don't have.
Yeah, but Chris, he's a restricted free agent. You don't have to worry.
Yeah, restricted free agent. You know what that means.
Yeah, some will sign him to an offer sheet. They'll lose him for a 3rd-round pick.
Of course. You got that right. You want to keep the few fans you have left? Sign this guy to an extension. And when you're done that, sign Chabot too. Otherwise, you'll lose him for nothing as well.
Oh, Chris, don't worry. They'll just sign Frederick Gauthier and Andreas Borgman instead.
You're probably right. So, that brings me to this. What's next? And honestly, with this Sens team, nobody could ever know. But if there's one thing I do know, it's not going to be good. So, how about this? The next time I see you will be when the Sens re-sign Colin White to an extension. I know they're not usually competent enough to do something like that, but in this case, it's going to happen. And if it doesn't, well, who's really surprised? I guess until that happens, or until something else happens, I'll see you next time. Enjoy your summer. Seriously, enjoy your summer, because if you're a Sens fan, it is going to be a miserable winter. Till I see you again, hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below with what you thought, and I'll see you next time. This team, man!